What went through your mind when you heard the news that Russia had attacked that shopping centre?
Well, of course, the news broke as we were all in the G7 sessions, and you could feel the whole mood of the meeting become yet more sombre. I think people are just shocked by what Putin is capable of doing. And, if anything, it helped those of us who are making the case for helping to protect the Ukrainians to get that message across to some of those people who are more swing voters in the argument. They can see that this is utter barbarism. And I think one of the things we've seen in this G7 today is a really, really powerful sense of unity and resolve and purpose and absolute determination to keep giving the Ukrainians the help, the support, the wherewithal to keep going.
There's been a strong message on unity, but have you been disappointed there's been a lack of concrete actions on Ukraine?
No, I think today you've just got another $30 billion of humanitarian and economic support for Ukraine, to say nothing of the extraordinary list of material, of equipment that everybody is sending across. And so what people basically agreed on, which I think had been slightly perhaps questioned around the world, but I was never really in doubt in my mind, what we agreed on was to give the Ukrainians the strategic endurance they need to try to shift the dial, to try to change the dynamic of the position. That's what needs to happen. That's what Volodymyr Zelensky wants us to give him.
Now, the new head of the British Army, General Sanders, is saying today that we are the generation that must prepare the army to fight again in Europe. Says we're facing our 1937 moment. That's pretty alarming for viewers to hear. Are we preparing for war with Russia?
I don't think it will come to that, and clearly we're working very hard to make sure that we confine this to Ukraine. I think that Putin and the Kremlin are going to try to widen the conflict and to try to say that this is something to do between NATO and Russia. That's not it at all. This is about an invasion of an independent sovereign country. It's about the West and all the friends of Ukraine giving them the support that they need to protect themselves. That's what this is about. Now, when it comes to UK defence spending, clearly we have to respond to the way the threats continue to change. But don't forget, Dominic, that when we've now got a defence budget that's £24 billion bigger under the spending review, the biggest increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. Last year, the UK was the third biggest defence spender in the world.
But your Defence Secretary is
we're making massive commitments.
Your Defence Secretary is reportedly asking for more. He wants 20% more over the next 5 years. Is he going to get that?
Well, look, I don't comment on leaked stuff. But what I can tell you, if you look already at what we're doing, last year, 2021, UK the third biggest defence spender in the world. What we're doing now under the spending review is putting another £24 billion in. We're well over 2%. What we want to do, and we treat the 2% as a floor, 2% of GDP spent on defence. We treat that as a floor, not a ceiling. And that was a campaign, by the way, that was began by the UK in Cardiff at a NATO summit. You're now seeing many more other countries come forward to match our spending. So the point I would make to people thinking about this at home is not only are we stepping up to the plate, not only are we putting more money into our armed forces, but actually as a result of our actions, our lobbying, our campaigning, our friends and partners around the table in Europe, in NATO, are also putting much more in. And it's that cumulative increase in investment that is very powerful and very important.
But nothing more on top of that, is what you're saying, in response to what the Defence Secretary seems to be saying, which is he needs more for Britain to be ready for a potential war with Russia.
So as a result of what we've already committed, we've put the biggest increase since the end of the Cold War. We're meeting our pledge. I think we've more than met our pledge so far to exceed the 2% floor that we want. And the point I'm trying to get over to folks is that we're not only just a massive defence spender, contributor, but because of the campaigns we've been running, we've got our friends. I mean, look at what's happening in Germany. Look at the massive commitments that Olaf Scholz is now making. You know, it's by working together that we can really start to leverage national contributions and make sure that our continent is well protected.
Talking about domestic issues, which you've been able to escape for a few days here, Nicola Sturgeon is going to lay out plans today for a second independence referendum. She says she has a mandate to do so because of her victory in the election last year. Can you stop her?
Oh, of course, we'll see what she has to say, and look forward to that. I think the important point to make is that we think the number one priority for the country is the economic pressures, the spikes in the cost of energy. Our plan for a stronger economy certainly means that we think that we're stronger working together, but we have good relations with the Scottish Government. We'll see what she has to say.
Will you block her plans to have another referendum?
You can take it, put it this way, we certainly think that our plan for a stronger economy works better when the UK is together than when it isn't together. And let me put it that way.
You said yesterday that the leadership question was settled in your mind, but there have been reports overnight that several of your MPs are in talks with Labour about defecting, worried about their seats, clearly not thinking you're a great election winner anymore. That must be painful to read. How do you feel about that? How does it make you feel?
I think this really falls into the category of political commentary, which I leave to distinguished journalists such as yourself.
It's simply commentary, is it, that several members of your party are thinking of leaving your party and joining Labour? I think
it's my job to talk about our policies, what we have to do, what we're doing for the country, what's been going on at the G7. But there are plenty of people who can offer you an opinion on that.
If I could put to you the views of a voter I met who's a staunch Tory supporter. He's a self-made man. He says he's voted Conservative all his life. He says when you next meet the Prime Minister, can you say to him, I will never vote Conservative again because I don't believe a word the Prime Minister says. If you've lost people like him, are you finished? Is your party finished?
I'm just going to, with great respect, repeat what I've already said. There are plenty of people who can offer political commentary. That's what they're paid to do.
But does it not show that if these MPs are thinking of defecting, that question is not settled?
I think my job is, these are matters for commentators. My job is to get on and deliver the agenda we've got. It's a massive agenda. I'm very excited by it. We're making a huge amount of progress on all sorts of fronts. I'm going to leave that to you.
On the Northern Ireland Protocol, former Prime Minister Theresa May said in the Commons yesterday that the bill wasn't legal under international law, won't achieve its aims and will diminish the UK's standing in the world. How can you sit around a table with other leaders doing business with them if you are breaking the law, if you are breaking international law, and are they taking you seriously?
Well, first of all, I think that the most interesting thing about the last few days is how little, contrary to some of the suggestions that have been in the UK media or UK politics, how little that issue has been raised, if at all. And I think the other thing is that our priority, which I think people really do understand, is the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. And that's the higher legal obligation. It's the balance of peace and stability in Northern Ireland, the balance between the communities there. People get that. And I think people basically want to move forward.
Just one more about Ukraine and your efforts to get grain out of Ukraine. We've interviewed Ukrainian farmers. We were in Somaliland last week as well, talking to people there deeply worried about an impending famine. What the farmers are telling us today, I was in touch with one today, was that to get the grain out over land is just not going to be enough. You've got to open up the ports, he says. Is that realistic? Can you open up those ports to get all that grain out to those starving Africans and people around the world who need it?
Look, there are all sorts of plans. We're working with the Turks and others, many others, to try and see what the UK can add. We're good at demining. We're good at ensuring shipping. There's all sorts of things that we're trying to add. But I think the key message that the world needs to hear about this, and it's not just in our country but around the world, the person who's stopping the grain come out from Ukraine, it's not Western sanctions. It's Putin. I mean, he's the guy who's putting the blockade in. He's blowing up bridges. I think there are routes that you could explore in addition to the Black Sea. I think we could do more and more. I mean, I think it looks as though we did about 2.5 million tons of grain from Ukraine last month. That's a big increase on previous months. And there are certainly routes up the Danube by railway where you could step things up. But fundamentally, as long as Putin is holding that grain hostage, 25 million tons, it is going to be very difficult. And I just think it's crucial that the global audience understands that it's down to him.
So the only solution really is beating him in this war?
I think that it's very different. If he does the right thing, if he understands that people need to be fed and that grain needs to come out, that would be a good thing. But I think as I've said before, I do think that we need to have a plan B.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Thank you.
Thank you.